All right, so this is in regards to just overall, just getting better overall, and just learning from matches. We've all heard the cliche: you either win or you learn. I think that's the dumbest statement of all time, or one of them at least. That's basically just an excuse in order to make a way to make yourself feel better if you lose. Oh, well, I didn't win, but at least I learned something. Well, why couldn't you learn something if you won also? Like, you should be learning just as much if you won or if you lost. And you think you would go out and have a perfect match like this? It's very rare that you go out and have a perfect match which you can't learn anything from. Okay? Sure, if you lose, it'll teach you something, and you can say, okay, this is actually where I messed up, and this is what caused me to lose, this is what caused me to get submitted. But you can learn just as much from a match that you won. Like, if I go out and I have a 40-minute match or 30-minute match with Buchecha at ADCC, sure, I won, but there's still a ton of stuff that I'm going to learn from that match. So you should be going back and watching your matches, even if there's not, like, non-professional events, amateur events. No one's recording you. Like, if you go to a local tournament, no one's going to be recording you. Have someone that you know record you. Ask someone from the stands, hey, can you record this match for me? So you can go back. Whether you win or you lose, you should still be learning. You shouldn't only learn something if you lose. Sure, losses can teach you a lot about yourself, how to deal with losses. We'll talk about that in a second. But you should be learning an equal amount as if you win or if you lose. There's always going to be those mistakes where even if you won a match, you still made mistakes. I mean, you think of white belt matches that I won almost all my matches from white to black belt. You don't think I made a ton of mistakes in all those matches or missed opportunities in those matches? So whenever you finish the match, go back. If you lost, definitely go back and diagnose what you did wrong that led you to get submitted or your guard pass, whatever the case is. But even if you won, go back and look at the mistakes that you made. Look at the missed opportunities. Go back in 6 months and watch it, and say, if I watch a match from me yesterday, I'll be like, oh, well, everything I did was great. But if I go back and watch a match from 6 months ago, if I watch a match from 2017 ADCC or 2019 ADCC, or if I train today and then 6 months from now I come back and I watch that match, I'll see tons of missed opportunities here or there. Like, I watched 2017 ADCC, even 2019 ADCC now, and I'm like, oh my God, I missed there's so many missed opportunities there. Go back and watch the matches right after and see if you can pick anything out. Take 6 months, take a year, take 2 years. I watched matches from when I was a blue belt, and I was like, oh my God, look at all those missed opportunities. So go back and watch old matches of you and see, what you could have done better, what glaring mistakes you made, and how you can improve them both technically and tactically for the future. Okay, there's many matches where I didn't lose technically, but I lost tactically. Leandro Lo is a perfect example. I was far ahead technically, and he had more negatives than any. It was the most negatives in ADCC history, but he still won the match. He just beat me tactically. I just made stupid tactical errors where I lost. So I went back and I watched that match and I say, okay, this point, that point, and that point, A, B, and C. Those are the things these are the instances that lost me the match, when I stood back up when I could have stayed seated, and et cetera, et cetera. So both technically and tactically, go back, whether you won or you lost, and diagnose what you could have done better, and where there's glaring mistakes and big holes in your game. Talk about a little bit about losing, managing losses. There have been some pretty major losses that I've had throughout my both amateur and professional career. And a loss is a loss. It is what it is. We'll start off first with my first loss ever in competition. I was a white belt. I was competing in the teens division, and I lost to Derek Holmes from Lloyd Irvins. He'd been training a lot longer than me. We were both in the teens division, but the teens division, obviously, they move you up division sometimes, down divisions, depending on how many people show up. And I think I got moved up the experience level, and he'd been training a lot longer than I have. And my first match, he put me in a kimura and put it behind my back, and back then I never lost a competition, and he put a Kimura behind my back and he was cranking it, and the ref stopped the match, and I was like furious, like my arm was like about to get broken, but the ref stopped the match, and I was like so pissed he stopped the match, and I lost my match, and then later that day I think I fought him. That was no-gi. I fought him, and he put the Kimura behind my back. Then I fought him in the gi again, and I like lost by an advantage or something, or like a point. I'm not sure. I forget. It was like almost 10 years ago. But I still remember his name. He's from Lloyd Irvins. And I lost 2 matches in one day, and I just remember I was just so angry. I just for like 2 days I just couldn't talk to anybody. I was just like so depressed and angry. And then I was a kid. I was like, okay, I'll get over it. No one really cares about it. Just keep training. Do what you can. And then another notable loss for me. There's some losses. I had some losses here and there, but another notable loss for me was Purple Belt No-Gi Worlds. That wasn't too big of a deal for me because I beat Jeff, and I was like, I can't do all my moves, so leg locks aren't allowed, so it's not that big of a deal. But I really felt like I was getting good. Back then I was training with John pretty consistently. I think that was like in between the period when I quit work and then had to go back to work. So I had like a few months consistently with John, and I spent all this money to get out to No-Gi Worlds, and I ended up losing I think 4-2. I think pretty sure it's a Dan Baropic. I fought him again in EBI, one of the EBIs, and then we had our rematch. But I'm pretty sure he beat me in No-Gi Worlds at Purple Belt, and that wasn't too big of a deal to me. But I was like still kind of pissed because I felt that I was getting good, and I spent all this money to get to No-Gi Worlds, and I still lost. So that was a pretty big loss to me. And then the two biggest losses up until that point were at both ADCC trials, because again I made that I put that goal in my head that I wanted to double gold at ADCC before I got my black belt, and it was 2015 at the time. 2014 at the time, I did 2 trials, and the only thing I wanted to do for that year was make it to ADCC. I wanted to win the trials as a purple belt, and I wanted to go to ADCC 2015. It was in Brazil that year. And I fought in the first trials, and I competed against Boogeyman from 10th Planet in my first match, and I strangled him. And then I competed against Josh Hayden, another leg locker. I had no idea who he was at the time. I think he previously won the trial before that, but I had no idea who he was. And I go out, and he pulls guard, and I just didn't respect him. I was like, okay, I'm getting good now. And I was so confident I was going to win, and I put myself in like this shitty Ashigarami, like 50, like not even really 50-50. His like legs weren't even over, but he had like a inverted heel hook without his legs even being locked, and he just ripped it, and I just yelled out tap, and I was like, oh my god, did that just happen? So that I got abused for, actually. I remember we went to dinner, and my ankle was hurt. And this is also like definitely some like part of the mental training was just Tom and Gary abusing me like relentlessly for years. We went to dinner that night, and I know we're getting off topic here, but we went to dinner that night, and I'm like 18, and it was the trials in West Virginia, and it was like me, Jason Lees, who's a Henzo black belt. He won the trials. I think Tom won the trials that year, or maybe he didn't do the trials, but if he did them, he did win. I forget. Gary, who had an invite. Eddie, who I think took second. I think he lost to Enrico Coco at that trials. And maybe somebody else who won. I'm not sure. And so we're all like partying, and Jason Lees, everybody's happy. I'm like limping around West Virginia because my ankle just got destroyed. And I sit down, and Tom's like, we're at the dinner table. Tom's like, how's your ankle doing? I'm like, well, it hurts. And Gary just looks me straight in the eyes, and he goes, good. Every time you walk on it, it will remind you how bad you suck. And I'm just like, all right, great. So I got abused for that loss after getting leg locked by Josh Hayden. So I'm really confident, and I come back now in the trials. And as the second trials, there's only 2 trials for the U.S. and I'm like, all right, this Charles is mine. So I beat like one or two guys who I don't know of in the first two rounds. Then the semifinals, I had ADCC veteran James Brasco, who I compete against. He's been a black belt forever. I'm still purple belt at the time, and we're going back and forth. He's like pulling away, ripping out of everything. He's shirtless. I'm competing at 88 kilograms. I'm only like 185 pounds. I'm doing 194 because I didn't want to be in Gary's weight division in 77. So the last 5 seconds, I sweep James Brasco. I score with a shoulder crunch to Migachi. Actually, I should find that for the open guard. Some promo for the open guard. I sweep him with a beautiful shoulder crunch to Migachi, take him over, and put him on his back and score. Then, finals, I fight Mike Perez from Atos. We're both purple belts at the time. We've both beaten black belts. I also beat Kyle Griffin, who's another ADCC vet. He beat Hamlo. I beat Kyle Griffin. I think Kyle Griffin in the semifinals and James Brasco in the quarterfinals. And then I fought Mike Perez, who's a purple belt from Atos. And time short, I come up, I hit a double, I score 2 points. There's like a minute left. Mike Perez manages to force me to turtle somehow. I forget exactly how it was, but he forced me to turtle. I'm up 2 points. Last 30 seconds, he puts 2 hooks in, scores 3. So now I'm down 1 point. It's 2-3. I escape the back. There's 15 seconds left. I can't pass his guard. I take second place in trials. And I'm like, man, my life is over. I'm not going to be able to do trials for 2 more years. I was like just so depressed. So we were in Miami, Florida. It was supposed to be like a nice trip. Everybody's supposed to win trials. Eddie won the trials that time around. He beat, I don't know who he beat in the finals, but he won the trials that year. And I was just like, man, I blew it. Like Eddie's going to ADCC. Tom's going to ADCC, Jason Lee's is going to ADCC, Gary's going to, we had like a person in every division, and I was the only one who didn't get to go, and I was like, oh my God. So that was the biggest loss up until that point. Then, the biggest loss I've ever had in my career, because now I was actually known, was definitely the Felipe Pena one. And that one was extra bad because not only did I have everyone attacking me for it, but I also got submitted, and that was like the real thing that upset me was I got submitted. Obviously, I fought him. We had like a 45-minute match, something like that, and he ended up taking my back off of a leg entanglement, and he strangled me, and I tapped. And that really, really upset me because people don't realize, like, most people can't handle someone, like, telling them they're like, a little bit chubby or, like, they have a big nose or something. Like, I had, like, thousands and thousands and thousands of comments and direct messages of people telling me, like, I should kill myself, you got choked, like, go drink through a straw now, gringo, because, like, my trachea or my mouth is supposed to be messed up because I got strangled. Like, all kinds of crazy stuff that, like, people were just, like, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, just constantly harassing me on all different kinds of forms. And that wasn't really what bothered me, whatever's fine. I've been getting abused by Tom and Gary my entire life, so that wasn't really that bad. But for me, the big thing was I got submitted, and I was like really upset about that. So now that you've heard my sob story, how do I deal with them? For me, it's definitely tough. Especially when you get to a high level and you think that you're, one of the best guys, and you go out and get submitted. But what makes it easier is just having a new goal to focus on. Okay, I got submitted the first time. It was the trials. I got submitted the first time to the trials. I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, it sucks, but no problem. The next trials are coming. All right, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to focus on the next trials. And then when I lost that trials, then I was like kind of lost for like, a couple days, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? And then the competition popped up, and I'm like, you know what, that's in the past now. Let me focus on this new journey to this next competition. And I got submitted by Felipe, and then, I was like, kind of lost for a few days, and I was like, kind of depressed, and then I realized, I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. I already got submitted. I can't change it. So what's next? So it's like a Zapatero. It was like an absolute Zapatero in Florida for $10,000, like 2 weeks later, like 3 weeks later or something. So I'm like, you know what? It's already it's already in the past. What am I going to do about it? So let me just focus now on that new goal of winning, these tournaments that are up and coming. And when you think about it like that, when you think about it in terms of it already happened, there's nothing you can do. So your two choices are either one, to just sit around and bitch about it and be sad that you lost, or to focus on that new goal of winning the next competition or whatever goal it is that you have. It becomes a lot easier. If you think about it in terms of that, sitting around and bitching and complaining, or going forward to that next goal, it's a pretty easy choice. The worst thing that you can do is just to sit around and just get ultra depressed and just kind of spiral into a depression where you're like, my life's over. What am I going to do now? Like, nobody cares, number one, that you lost. Most people in the world wouldn't even know or care that you won. And nobody wants to hear your fucking sob story. Nobody cares. Everybody has a sob story. So the best thing to do is just move forward, focus on the new goal, and find a way that you can get from your depression over here, okay, where you want to sit around and eat chocolates and kill yourself, to your next goal of winning the next tournament. And for me, that was the way to deal with the loss. It was to learn from the loss, look at what I did wrong, how I can fix it so it doesn't happen again, which it fucking did with the Felipe Pena match anyways. I got my back taken again the same way. But it won't happen again. And look at what you did wrong, analyze what you did wrong, what you could have done better, so it doesn't happen again, so you can make the corrections for the next match. And then, add that to your game. If someone hit a move on you that worked on you, and you don't do that move, adopt that move so you can do it yourself, so you can hit it on other people. And then just focus on whatever's next. All right, what's in the past is done. It's over. Who cares? You're not going to change it. People will remember forever. People will talk about it forever. Who cares? Whatever's next is what you have to focus on. Let's talk a little bit now about dealing with injuries. All right, now this is going to vary for everyone depending on, are you a hobbyist, are you a competitor, do you have something coming up, are you just training, if you're a competitor. So first things first, I've had some pretty major injuries, not many thankfully. When I was a blue belt, I had a grade 2 tear in my MCL, my right knee. Obviously, I had my LCL reconstruction. I've had smaller injuries here and there. I have, my neck has a reoccurring injury, which gets bad sometimes. If you saw the Moldalfo camp video, I wrestled hard the first day, and then Mako threw me, and I really hurt my neck. So I wasn't in any of the other wrestling footage. Really hurt my neck bad. My ankles have been popped from heel hooks, dozens of times in the beginning. I just didn't know how to not tap from heel hooks before my ankles got broken. My fingers have been broken. I had that bike accident before ADCC. I broke my hand in 2 spots, tore ligaments in my wrist. Craig broke my arm in half, popped my arm. And that's pretty much all the major injuries I think I've had. Gaudio kicked me in the face. My jaw was sore for 3 months. Maybe I fractured my jaw, something that I just never went to the doctors. Broken toes here and there, but that's everything major that happened to me so far. When you deal with injuries, you have to understand that you can't push yourself to a point where you're going to get re-injured. So when I tore my MCL, I wore a knee brace for a full year until my leg was 100%. And by 100%, I mean to a point where I didn't know what leg I injured anymore, okay? I went very, very light. I was terrified of getting re-injured and needing surgery when I was still young, which MCLs don't usually need surgery, but I was terrified anyways. And I really baby injuries. Right? I don't want us to be the guy who's 60 years old and cannot move. So whenever I get an injury, I take good care of it. If it's just something that's good for being an athlete long term. When I got my LCL injury, I took care of it. I didn't rush it. I listened to the doctor, and I figured I would rather wait the extra 2 months or however long it was, just hypothetically 2 months, than go back in and re-injure it and it just never be the way that it should be. So I waited, all the amount of time to, until I got doctor clearance to start training again. At least with the major injuries. With little injuries, you break your finger, something like that, you just tape it and it's fine. I don't know if you guys can tell, broke my pinky and never really healed fully, but it's fine. Just can't straighten it quite all the way. Like little injuries, I just do whatever I think is best. Major injuries that are like career enders, I always listen to doctors. So as far as injuries in training, you have to find partners, number one, that you trust, that are willing to work with you. Like I'm not going to go with a guy like Nicky Rod, who's just like huge and explosive when I have, a broken knee. I'm going to go with guys that are slow and controlled and, even if they were to explode, they wouldn't really be able to injure me because they're not, they're not big enough. They're not explosive enough. I go with guys who are much lighter than me. I'm 220, 230. I go with guys who are, 150, 160, 170. I generally got Ethan when my knees hurt, for example. And you have to work on things. You have to put yourself in situations where you can play, but you can also do jiu-jitsu with your injury. Like, so for example, when I had my left knee surgery, I wouldn't be able to play half guard or butterfly half guard on my right hip because then if I'm playing butterfly guard on my left hip, on my right hip, all the weight on the butterfly hook is putting pressure on my LCL. So I would change and I would start playing half guard on my left hip instead. And then, my left leg would be at the ground and my right leg would be playing the butterfly hook. So you have to adapt your game to get, to fit whatever injury you have. So the biggest thing is finding partners you trust, finding partners, if you can, that are much smaller than you. So even if they do move the wrong way by accident, they don't re-injure you. And treating, there's a balance of treating your body with respect and not being a total pussy. You can't baby injuries so much where you just feel like you're just overdoing it and there's no reason to go that light. But at the same time, with a major injury, respecting your body and giving it the time it needs to heal so that it heals well. And like, for example, my knee levers, got much better. If I did play half guard on my right hip, I wouldn't be able to use a butterfly hook, so I would use a knee lever. So my knee lever on my right hip got much better. My half guard passing got much better because I wouldn't be able to do my typical toreandos and side to side passes because my leg wasn't stable. So I would just force guys into body locks, passing my knees, going to half guard, and many parts of my game got much better because I was injured and I had to adapt my game to that. Okay, so the cliche that you actually do get better when you're injured is somewhat true. I was there every single day, adapting to my injuries. My right leg being hurt or my left leg being hurt, my neck being hurt. Someone locks if my neck's really bad and someone locks a guillotine or a front headlock or a triangle and it hurts, so you just tap. Who cares? You'd rather tap early than wait the extra few seconds and have your neck be sore for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's definitely a big part of it is adapting your game to play correctly into whatever injury you have, finding training partners that you trust, finding training partners that preferably are a little bit smaller than you, definitely not much bigger than you, and just being there every day. Being there mentally, whether you can't be there every day, at least thinking about the sport. All right. I'm 100% confident in saying that I wasn't able to train for, I think, 3, almost 4 months after I got my LCL fixed, and I came back better than I was before I got my surgery, even though I wasn't training. Because every night I'm there, I'm constantly thinking about the sport. Before I go to sleep, when I wake up, I'm thinking about moves. I'm there in class. I'm watching John teach in the daytime, but I go home at nighttime. I'm thinking about it. I was on crutches. I was taking Ubers to the city and like hobbling down the stairs to Henzo's on my crutches just to watch class, just to see guys, just to answer questions, just so I'm there, just so you're there mentally with the sport. If you can't be there physically, you have to be there mentally, and you won't miss a beat. But if you just check out physically because you're hurt and you check out mentally, that's when you start to lose progress, and you actually come back worse than when you started when you got hurt. Okay, but as long as you're there mentally and you come back and the whole time, if you're hurt in July and you have to come back in September, as long as you're active mentally, at least if you can't be active physically, be active mentally the whole way through, it becomes much easier to pick the pace up once you start again. Because your mind's there and your body just has to catch up. Versus your mind not being there and you just have no idea what's going on anymore, and then your mind's not there, your body's still falling apart, and it turns into a disaster. But at least if your mind's there, all that has to catch up is your body, and your body comes back very quickly. Your timing and all that comes back quickly once you're not injured anymore. How do you stay motivated? I've been doing this a long time now. You do the same thing every day. What keeps you motivated? You have to understand that at some point in your career, whether you're a hobbyist, whether you're an athlete, especially if you're an athlete, motivation sometimes becomes an issue. Okay, sometimes you're not motivated to get up, you're not motivated to go to the gym, you're exhausted, you don't want to get up and do the session. If motivation is an issue, that's okay, but discipline should never be an issue. You don't have to always be motivated to get up and go to class, right? But you have to have the discipline to get up off your couch, get in the car, and drive to training. It's that simple, right? Especially if you're an athlete. You can make excuses, this, that, and this, and everything. And some days you do need a day off. Some days you're just dead, and you feel like if you go to class, you're not going to retain anything, and that's fine. But at some point, you're just being lazy. And if you ever see that happening, if you just feel like you're depressed or you lost a match, you don't want to go to training, whatever the case is, it's this simple. Get up, get into your car, drive to training, and train. Okay? You don't need to be motivated to train. You just got to get up and you got to go. The hardest part sometimes is just getting on the mat. Okay? And once you're there, it's easy. Okay? It's an hour, 2 hours a day if you're a hobbyist. And, if you train, it's a work day, 4, 5, 6 hours a day between everything, between traveling. For most athletes, for me, it's closer to 8 to 10 hours a day. But who cares? That's your job. That's just what you're getting paid to do. And, in my case, getting paid well to be the best in the world at, what I do. How am I going to complain? How am I not going to be motivated? How am I not going to be disciplined to get up and to go? How am I going to, what kind of audacity would I have to have to let my family and my friends down, the people counting on me, my fans, people that want to see me go out and win? What kind of person would I be if I wasn't giving them everything? People travel across the world to see me compete at ADCC. People travel across the world to take seminars, to take privates with me. What kind of person would I be if I wasn't doing all that I could, to either if I'm teaching them, give them all the knowledge possible, or if they're paying to see me compete, what kind of person would I be if I wasn't fully prepared for that because I wasn't motivated to train? What does that even mean? As an athlete, just get the fuck up and go train. That's what you're getting paid to do. This is your livelihood. That's what you're doing. That's what your family's counting on. That's what your friends are counting on. That's what your fans are counting on. People bet on you. People travel to see you. And you're a hero to some people if you're an athlete, especially if you're a high level athlete. Like you're some little kid's hero. Like what kind of shitbag are you if you're gonna, not go to training because your girlfriend broke up with you because you're sad or this or that. It's just like that. That's just pathetic. As far as how I get motivated, I don't need motivation. I'm self-motivated. I don't need anything extra to get me going. If a competitor is doing well and then he thinks that he's on my level, that's motivating to me. Like, some guys like coming up the ranks, like, Kyle Boehm or Bam, however you say his last name. He's beating these guys and he's coming out and he's like, he's like saying he's gonna beat me. Like that's motivating to me because like, oh, okay. Like you think I'm the rest of these guys? Like you think that I'm the same as the rest of the guys you're competing against? No problem, we can compete. And I just go out and crush these guys. So that's motivating to see like guys calling me out. Because I'm already so riled up and like motivated to go out and beat everybody that anything extra is just like icing on the cake. Every time like one person, like one hater, says like, that I suck or that they say something or they say that, they do polls like who's going to win, like Gordon or so and so. If there's like one person that doesn't vote for me, that's all the motivation I need to get up and train the next day. Or like Ronaldo Jr. like having the audacity to say that if I was out of shape to send like one of my teammates, like that stuff's motivating to me. I don't need that stuff, but that extra icing on the cake just really gets me going. You think I'm out of shape? Well, we can compete tomorrow, and I'm guaranteed you'll be gassed out in the first 5 minutes. That's the kind of stuff that really excites me. But I don't need outside motivation. I think if you need outside motivation, and you're an athlete, specifically an athlete that you're kind of a weak individual, you should be self-motivated. I'm self-motivated to be the best in the world. I don't need motivation from anywhere. I don't need money. I don't need fame. All I need is enough to get to the mats every day and focus on training. And that's all I want to do. I just want to train. I want to not only be the best in the world and be the best ever, I want to be the best me that I can be. So I know that I'm light years ahead of the rest of the guys that I'm competing against, and I'm not even focusing on beating them anymore. I'm just focusing on beating myself, a week ago, beating myself 2 weeks ago, being the best that I can possibly be before I peak and I hit my prime. That's my goal now, because I know that I'm better than the rest of these guys. So that's my motivation. Your motivation can be from anything. Your motivation can be from, if you're a competitor, from watching people who you aspire to be, from watching people from different sports, like documentaries on different athletes, how they go about their lives. Your motivation, if you're a hobbyist, can be, I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to get in shape. I want to be able to defend myself. If we go to the beach and, some guy's giving my wife a problem, I want to be able to defend her. I want to be able to beat him up. Your motivation can be a ton of different things. Your motivation can be money. If you're an athlete, I want to get good so I can make money, so I have enough money to travel the world and teach seminars, or have enough money to train. It could be a variety of different things. Most of the time for people who do this as a hobby, it's I want to stay in shape. I want to have, time away from my problems, my bills, my work, get my mind off things. That's my motivation to get up and go. I get to see my friends. At class, we go out and we talk after class. We mess around and joke. Your motivation can be to spend more time with your family, with your kids. Maybe your whole family's involved. It can be a variety of different things. Okay. As far as a hobbyist, you can have dozens, hundreds of different motivations to go to training. But again, discipline shouldn't really be an issue. If you say you want to do something, then get up, and if you say you want to train, then don't make an excuse. Get up and train. If you're an athlete, there's absolutely no excuse to not train. Like if you don't train, you're just a pathetic loser who doesn't really take his job seriously. Especially if you're an athlete, discipline should never be an issue. Okay, it doesn't matter how depressed, how sad, no matter what's happening in your life, you get up and you go train. I remember for 4 months, it was more than 4 months, but 4 months it was really bad. I was taking care of my grandpa who had stage 4 lung cancer. This guy, and for 4 months I was there at his house every day, and the day after he died, I was in training the next day. So. Discipline really shouldn't be an issue. Motivation can be an issue, can be sad, depressed, doesn't matter. Get up, get in your car, drive to training, and train. Dealing with issues, outside of the mat. All right, now this is a little bit different for hobbyists and competitors, in my opinion. For hobbyists, this isn't your main thing that you're doing. So if you have a family issue outside of this, obviously, take the time you need to deal with your outside, family or life issues, and get back to the mat when you can. Don't use these things as an excuse to just miss training because you're just lazy, of course. But obviously, if a family member is sick or you have a real an issue, definitely take care of that while trying to get into class as best you can, and then when everything's resolved, get back to class. All right. So, obviously, for hobbyists, life does get in the way. This isn't your main priority. This isn't what's putting food on the table. We're trying to win a world championship. So, it's a little bit different for you guys. For competitors, I don't care what is going on outside of your life, like minus you being very sick and like dying yourself. There shouldn't be any reason that you should miss training for any extended amount of time. This is your life. It's not a regular job that you don't care about. This is not something that you can afford to take time off of. Working a regular 9 to 5 is average. You're an athlete. You're a pro athlete. You're not average. There's no reason why your friends, your family, your girlfriends, your wives, nothing should get in the way of you being a pro athlete. Your kids should not get in the way of you being a pro athlete. Which I don't even know how. I don't even think I could have kids if I was a pro athlete. I'm so selfish. Doing what I do now. Nothing should get in the way of you being a pro athlete. Okay, if being a pro athlete is what you want to do with your life, you should be dedicated to it no matter what. I don't care if your family's sick. I don't care if your girlfriend doesn't want you to train. I don't care if your wife wants to move. If your wife has a job on the other side of the country and she wants to move, and you want to, that the gym that you're at now is where you have to be training. Nothing would ever take me away from where John is teaching. Nothing. Not anything. Okay? That is something that is so important, and many athletes lose sight of, especially when they start to make money. Okay, they start to get comfortable. There's nothing that you should deal with that should take you off the mats for any more than a couple days. I was taking care of my dying grandpa for months and months and months, and still made it to training every single day. I was in the middle of buying a house, a condo, still made it to training every single day. There's countless things that should have taken me off training for months and months and months that didn't. And that's your job. Like, if you want to be the best in the world, you can't miss training like that. You can't do the things that normal people do. You can't take 3 weeks off to take care of your dying family. If your mom or your dad or your whoever, your family member's sick, if your wife's sick, you just cannot take the time off. Like, in order to maintain a status of best in the world at anything, you just cannot afford to miss that time. And it sounds messed up, but this is what you signed up for. You signed up to be the absolute best in the world. If you're an athlete and you're an aspiring athlete, hopefully that's your goal. Otherwise, why are you even doing this? You shouldn't be an athlete. This is what you sign up for, to be the best in the world, to be the best ever, and to create a legacy. And that doesn't involve you missing training for things outside of your life. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is building a routine, and how you should be going about training, and what your schedule should be like, how your life should be like, and things like that. But you can't let anything outside of training take your mind off of what your goal is, which is being the best in the world. All right, so now let's talk about routines. Now, obviously, as a hobbyist, I'm not going to tell grown men, grown women how to live their lives and how to build their routine around their training schedule. You all have very different lives, different responsibilities, families, things like that. So I would try to get a routine and stick to that routine. Okay, now you have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example. Those are your days you go to jiu-jitsu. You spend 1 to 2 hours there, and those are your set days. Okay, so it's nice to have a routine in that sense. Now, as far as a competitor goes, again, if your goal is to be the best in the world, the best ever, you have to have a routine, and you pretty much have to have a boring life. You can't do things that normal people do, like normal teenagers and normal 20-year-olds do. I basically committed my life to jiu-jitsu from the age of 17 years old. That was my life. I didn't go to parties. I didn't go hang out with my friends that much. I didn't get drunk. I didn't do any drugs. I didn't I didn't do any of that. I committed my life to jiu-jitsu. My life and the life of, many champions who are, winning for years at a time, they have pretty bland and boring lives. I wake up every day, I go to training, I come home, I lift, and I go to sleep. I don't do pretty much anything. My dream car ever was the Cadillac CTS-V. I bought it. I barely drive it because I don't take it into the city because it's too nice to take into that dump. I just drive my truck in every day, and the car just sits in the garage. So, I don't get to do anything. I don't go to the beach because if I go to the beach, then I miss training. I don't go on vacations. The only time I ever travel is to compete, and whenever I do compete, I basically just in and out. I show up on a Thursday, I compete on a Saturday, I teach a seminar on Sunday, and then I leave. I don't travel without working. I don't go to the beach. I don't go to bars, go out to clubs really at nighttime. So I always have to train the next day. I have to train. My number one priority is training. And if I was to take a vacation, let's say I go to, I don't know, Barbados for a week, or to Hawaii for a week, and I don't do a seminar, I don't work there, I can't enjoy it. Okay, I know that all my teammates are back home thinking about new things and training hard, and I know that when I get back it's going to be miserable, and I know that I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to be doing to cement my legacy. So I can't even enjoy it because I know that I should be training. So I'm just maybe I'm just messed up in the head, but for me, I can't enjoy vacations knowing that I'm there when I should be training. My routine every day is I wake up, I train, I come home, I lift, and I go to sleep. Maybe I play Mario Kart sometimes. Maybe I watch a movie at nighttime to relax. But that's it. It's training, lifting, sleep, training, lifting, sleep, for years and years. Anybody can do this for 2 months, for 3 months, for a year, for 2 years. Do this for 10 years and let me know how it is. Everyone thinks everyone sees the athletes with all this money and everything. Try to do this for 10 years. Don't hang out with your friends. Don't go to family gatherings. Don't go on vacation. You have to have a routine. It's very, very important. And that's just how it is. That's how, any champion doesn't, any great champion in the world never trains sporadically. George the same way, St. Pierre, he had routine. All these guys, all these, Michael Jordan, we've watched the Jordan documentary, the hardest worker in the room. These guys had a set routine and were only focused on being the best they could in their domain. And you have to have the routine. My life is that. These other competitors in our sport want to train 3 times a week. They want to spend their time, traveling, sitting on the beach doing things. After a big tournament, they go out and they party, or they go back home, wherever they're from, to relax for a few weeks. What is that? What are you doing? You should be training 6-7 days a week, multiple sessions a day. Every day you should be better. There's no rest time. I can't even think about taking a vacation. The only vacation that I had, it wasn't even a vacation. It was after I won ADCC. I beat Paul Harris. I beat Gabriel Gonzaga, and then I was recovering from a ton of injuries. And I bought my car in Reno because I was already in Portland fighting for SEG. So I just drove my car from Reno back to Boston to film, and it took me 5 days. And I stopped in a few places here and there for a few hours. But it wasn't a vacation. I just drove a car, my business car that I use every day for traveling to work, from Reno to Boston to film. So that was 5 days. That was the closest thing I've ever got to a vacation, really, without working in 10 years. Okay, I went to Hawaii, but I was there teaching privates the whole time, teaching seminars the whole time. I went to Singapore, teaching private, teaching seminars the whole time. I don't ever travel and do vacations without working. I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years, a real vacation in 10 years. I travel to nice places, but it's always working. I don't get to enjoy anything. That's how you should be. That's how your life should be as an athlete. You didn't sign up to be an average person where, you go to work for 8 hours a day and you get to hang out with your friends at nighttime. You get to go out to clubs, skip a day at work, go to the beach. That's not what you signed up for. You signed up to be someone who's more than the average person. You signed up to be an athlete. You signed up to be the greatest of all time and greatest ever, one of the best ever in your sport. And you don't get there by taking days off or having sporadic training and doing things that you want to do. You do it by doing things you need to do, which is having a routine and training and focusing on that only goal of winning that next competition. All right, everybody. So we talked about a lot of things today. The two biggest things would be, number one, just mindset for competition preparation, how I approach a competition with any given set of rules or a specific opponent. That's the one phase here. And then always talking about, and thinking about how we can get better with a limited amount of time and how we can improve the most over the shortest amount of time. Okay, like we spoke about before, time is always the X factor, and the age-old question for everyone in our sport is, how can I get good as quickly as possible? Okay, so we talked a lot about the both hobbyist and competitor side of things, as far as training routines, schedules, and things like that, dealing with family issues, getting ready for a big competition, dealing with anxiety, and the full side of the athlete spectrum. And then we discussed how we can get better over time through, or get better faster over the short amount of time through working hard physically, mentally, and doing very specific situational sparring where we have situations where we work certain positions more than our opponents do, and we use specific setups to put our opponents in those positions where, even though they've been training much longer than us overall, we've been training much longer than them in those certain positions, so that we have more knowledge than they do in those spots. Okay, we have more knowledge from them, or have more knowledge than them in those spots from the hard mental work, and then we have the skills to actually perform them on our opponents through the hard physical work. Okay, so everything's kind of coming together now, and we've touched on the athlete portion and the X factor being time portion, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If there's anything else you guys want to know about, I know we posted some fan questions. I answered almost all the fan questions in here, so I'm going to look again and see if there's anything else for the little bonus feature in here that we need to go through as far as fan questions go. But I answered pretty much all the relevant fan questions in here already, so we'll take a look at that. If there's not anything, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one.